Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Savavedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Okay. As the chapter 17, we saw that Dattatreya telling the story of the king, and to prove, after some confusion, to prove that the real deal is knowledge. It's not really the state of emptiness or nirvikalpa samadhi. At the very end, he had established that the real thing is savikalpa, or the natural state of someone's mind, well established by the means of jnana, aham brahmasmi, which somehow dries up a good chunk of those binding ragas and dveshas, desires and aversions. And then Dattatreya said, okay, this guy is not fully convinced. And then he said, I'm going to continue here. And then he starts saying that this pure supreme intelligence, consciousness, howsoever we want to name it, is not available as objective knowledge. And it can be experienced, meaning to say felt on some occasions in ordinary life. So we have seen those verses in which Dattatreya and the king will just present to us how often and how easily we miss those that shining consciousness not reflecting on any thought object. Just pure light of consciousness, of reflected consciousness, which is what we can experience. You say, I don't have much to say. Objective mind is gained by the mind. But the true nature of the mind cannot be objectified. Still, it follows that there must be mind, even in the absence of objects. So objective knowledge, meaning knowledge in respect to object, requires a mind. But the mind cannot be objectified, the real nature of the mind. Still, we conclude that there must be mind even in the absence of objects. Thank you, Dattatreya. That's what it is. If consciousness, it reflected consciousness, must be present to illumine and reveal objects. So it's clear that this luminous consciousness does not depend on any object. Object depends on consciousness, but not the other way around. So it's present even in the absence of any object. This is the purity of this true nature of the mind. And then he says, to make it clear that we are not talking about the other nature, the other mithya nature and satya nature. So the mind has, we could say, two natures. One is its mithya nature, which is the sense of I think, and I do things and so on, the ego. The sequence of thoughts and even determinations and concepts that the mind holds totally oblivious of its true nature in Satya as pure limitless consciousness. This mind has true nature, its inferior pure nature and its true superior nature. So that pure nature of the mind is supreme intelligence. Awareness is its nature. Consciousness is its nature, original limitless consciousness. It's always available to be realized. What is it? Oh, I missed it. It's always available to be realized. Besides itself can never be, therefore it is always realized for no other knower. So here establishing that there is only one consciousness, and it shows up as the human consciousness, let's say, the aham. But the very nature of this aham is pure limitless consciousness. So how many consciousness are there? We could say, oh no, there are two levels of consciousness. There are many levels of consciousness, but fundamentally here, in this human consciousness and pure consciousness. But then Vedanta and the Upanishad again and again has to make a point to us and says the nature of reality, which is Satchitananda consciousness, is non-duality. Consciousness is non-dual. So there is no other knower. There is only one chit aspect of reality. So there is no other knower besides itself. Which self what? The Satya nature of the mind. The true nature of the mind is just inert. Inert, it is just energies that somehow produce this phenomenon. They reflect aham. But fundamentally, it's in its substantial nature, it's just matter/energy, So where is this true consciousness, awareness, which is its nature, come from? And how come this mind exists as bound by the spell of Maya to become the ego and so on? So there is no other consciousness. The nature of consciousness is oneness or non-duality. So for anyone believing that there is another consciousness who is observing or witnessing the mind, this is a trick thing, because in many passages of some of our teachings on China world and so on, we get the impression that consciousness observe and witness the mind, understand? But it's not the case. We say that in theory, from the standpoint of consciousness, the mind is an object to me. But it's not that I stand as consciousness to see the mind. The mind is self-reflective, understand? So it's self-conscious. The mind is the one doing the job to say, okay, so I understood. I seem to be the fundamental, the absolute subject principle here, but there is something which is feeding me with consciousness, without which I'm just matter energy. So, and then from the standpoint of consciousness, I am an object. Yes, the mind is an object when you see it objectively, but the true nature of the mind is Satya, is pure limitless consciousness. And pure limitless consciousness is not an experiencing, witnessing, knowing entity. You understand? We say the mind is an object to me, but it's not that I am experiencing or witnessing or observing the mind. The mind observes itself because it's self-reflective. It has this capacity to be self-aware, self-conscious, and start seeing itself. How can you see the mind? Observe its content. The mind can observe its own contents. What kind of thought patterns and emotions that run through, and and vasanas and habits that pops in the conscious mind. So the mind has these things. So the mind has to observe itself at a certain point, the content of itself, so that it can clean up a little bit these mental conditions. And then it starts contemplating no longer on the objects or neither, not even in the condition of the mind, but reflecting and contemplating the light of the teaching of the Upanishads, contemplate on its very nature as consciousness, limitless consciousness, you understand? So that is the whole process. There is no other knower besides the mind itself, okay? So the mind has to become pure enough so that it contemplates, we say, developing a contemplative mind, developing a sattvic, which is a self-reflective mind. So then we start contemplating on anything, any phenomenal thing, but we want to turn the mind into a different sort of contemplation, which is a contemplation on its very nature as limitless consciousness. It's all happening in the mind. Do you think, Bhagava, that the self is not aware when objects are seen? Yes, the self is aware, but the self is not experiencing, knowing entity, is not an aware entity. The self is self-aware, and it's aware of the universe, let's say, but only through the Jivatma, because it needs an entity by which it knows. We could debate here more philosophically than anything whether Ishvara, which is the creator, is pure knowledge, is being, is self-conscious, and he's self-conscious, he has self-knowledge, the knowledge of the entire universe. His body is constituted by pure knowledge, pure sattva guna, and pure intelligence. So we can debate whether Ishvara is aware of the Jivatma. So the self, he is saying, you believe that the self is not aware, where is the past? Do you think that is not aware of objects? You think that the self is not aware of the Jivatma and the object appearing in the mind of Jivatma? No, it's always aware, but without Jivatma, the self cannot be aware of anything. So who is aware after all? Is it the Jivatma or its consciousness? It's more like a philosophical, more than anything, because again and again our scriptures establish that the self or consciousness is not a knowing, experiencing entity, but, it does appear to become a self, a conscious, aware of objects, entities through the entities, the Jivatma entities, experiencing entities. If the self was not aware of objects, the self would not exist. If the self does not exist, how can you raise this question without the self? So if consciousness is not aware, it's made out of awareness. Let's look at Ishvara again. Ishvara is the pure reflection of consciousness or awareness, okay? It has very little rajas and tamas playing with it. And then it reflects, and the reflection is what? It's the chit aspect of Brahman. What is the chit aspect of pure knowledge, pure knowingness, pure intelligence? So Ishvara is that entity which is this pure knowledge. So we can have, again, bring Ishvara back. So is this, how can you read it? Is Ishvara aware of objects? And then we say, well, it seems so. But at the same time, again and again, we are told by the scriptures that Ishvara is not a super jiva. Ishvara is pure intelligence. So is pure intelligence aware of every jiva in the way we human beings are aware of all other jivas? Is Ishvara experiencing? Yes and no. It's experienced through what? Through all jivas, you understand? But is Ishvara capable of objectifying the world of Mithya and be aware of everything, Again, this is a philosophical question that could take very nice discussions for people inclined to philosophy. But Ishvara is pure knowledge, pure intelligence. It has the knowledge of all universe, past, present, future, sustained by its laws and principles, and then recycles everything from moment to moment. And it must be aware. Why? Because its nature is reflect awareness, and it's the most pure sort of reflected awareness. So how can you concede consciousness to your jivas and at the same time not to be self-conscious? You understand? It is self-conscious, but we don't know if Ishvara, the creator, is aware of the world the same way human beings are aware of the world. It's not the same way, because we are messed up with Rajas and Tamas, you understand? Perception of reality is something more on the lines of everybody has their own world, in their minds. So Ishvara is aware. Here he's talking about Brahman, about the supreme intelligence. You think it's not aware. If it is, if Ishvara, which is pure consciousness, is not conscious, it would be absurd. Okay, because how can it somehow concede consciousness to all living creatures and not be the very source of consciousness? So it must be self-conscious. But whether Ishvara and even Brahman is conscious of the object the same way Jiva Atmas are, my take is it is not the same way. You understand? Because Ishvara is not an entity who experiences mithya, moved by its karma. It's not subject to karma, anything. It's just pure knowledge, There's no question of ragas and dveshas. There is no preference in Ishvara. It's just again and again providing us with lessons, potential lessons, and we have rajas and tamas moving and creating a lot of ragas and dveshas, but Ishvara is there. But we don't know. Nobody knows about how Ishvara really produce, sustains, and furthermore experience this creation in the absence of all Jivatmas. We don't know. So we'll never know. That's my take. Could you seek any good for yourself without Ishvara and consciousness? No. So how can you establish that consciousness? How can you establish the self for you? Consider. So if you are a conscious being, you must consider that there is a source of consciousness that somehow has lended you consciousness. Because as we know, the physical aspect of the body is not conscious. There is something else that makes it conscious and alive and animates it. So do you think, oh Bhagavad, that the self is not aware when objects are seen? Okay, as we have seen. Or do you mean to say that there is ordinarily an awareness of the self, but it cannot be particularized? If so, know it to be the unending awareness which is perpetually existing. Yeah. So there is only one awareness. You cannot be aware of awareness. You can only be awareness itself. Awareness is not an object of knowledge or experience. So you exist always, perpetually. That's yourself. The self is free from attributes and quality and particulars. How strange that knowing it, you're still ignorant. So they gave him a hard time at this point. At the time of cognizing an object, the pure consciousness assumes the shape. Objective knowledge is thus a particularized section of pure intelligence. So this was interesting as well. Objective knowledge is a certain aspects of the supreme intelligence. Okay, so it happens how? It happens through the Jivatmas, more particularly through the human Jivatmas in this planet. So they have the ability to see the properties and the particulars particularities of all configurations produced by my Ishvara. Its aspect of consciousness, yes, is reflected consciousness in the human mind, in the human subtle body, that creates this human consciousness or reflected consciousness or mind, okay, which is an aspect of the pure intelligence once Maya operates to produce all this shining mind, shining reflected consciousness. Huh? This self is ever shining, but it's free from attributes, qualities, and particularities. If you say that the body itself appears as the self, then I tell you that there are only the play of thoughts. Yeah, I am the body is just a thought. I am is a good thought, I would say. I am the body is a really binding thought, bind to what? To the body. And what is the big deal about being so identified with the body is that the body is temporal. Is gonna go, and then the person is going to be in difficulty. So so to say that I am the body is a bad thought. To say I am is a much better thought. To say I am Brahman is the only liberating thought. When you see a pot, you're aware of the pot, and you don't mix up a pot with your own body. You don't mix up your body with your friend's body. If you believe that this is normal, let's normalize ignorance. I mean, in this world, everything is normalized. Maya has made it a way that ignorance is fully normalized. And there are all kinds of different ignorance nowadays that is being normalized. So if you say that there is no problem, no big deal, no harm in believing that you are the body, because it's no worse than glorifying a part itself of the whole, I tell you, do you confine such a glorification one part only to the exclusion of the others? So extend it right through and glorify the whole universe as the self. So he's just looking, playing the analogy in regards to just see everything as Ishvara and fundamentally everything as Brahman. Consciousness on which this universe is apparently projected. Don't get caught up with some small aspects of this universe. But what aspect? Your cat or anything, your body, which is the object that we love the most. And then people go, oh no, I love my wife, I love my husband more than myself, I love my children. This is, in some cases may be true, but fundamentally, the object that we are mostly fascinated and we love the most is the body we wake up with every day, every morning in bed. We never wake up in the morning and we don't find the same body, and we never get bored or tired of that thing sleeping with us every day. So we are so attached to this body that we don't see all the other bodies. So see your body as a small particle which is an integral part of the totality, which is Ishvara, manifested as a cosmos, the universe, and just you have a perspective that we are all one as Ishvara, as the manifestation of the universe, and we need to try to find a balance here to live in harmony with all these different parts. So Karma Yoga is all about that. Is the very laws of Karma Yoga is plurality, diversity is law in Mithya, and we need to find somehow balance in order to live in harmony with all other aspects or objects or creatures, nature and everything. And then we can glorify the body of Ishvara as the universe, rather than being fixated on my own body, glorify my body, and the body keeps growing old. It may be shocking to people, to see old age. I often say that old age requires tremendous maturity to deal with. In that case, there will be no confusion, because you see the universe as one Ishvara. Therefore, rule out the universe, the creation, as a mere thought or series of thoughts, and realize they don't do on nature residual. Now you have to give away the notion, even the notion of the universe, before you just resolve the thought, I, the body, I'm fascinated, I glorify this object. Now see the entire universe as one single object, Ishvara manifest, and then you have to get over that as well. Rule out the thought, I am the body, and rule out the entire creation thought as mere thoughts in consciousness, a series of thoughts that brings about concepts like the cosmos or humanity or the universe or the creation, and then realize that it's all Brahman, it's all non-dual consciousness, pure intelligence, which is Brahman. So that is the whole deal here. It's to move from the particularities of thoughts, objects that will be getting entangled due to desires and aversions, and then you start seeing the totality, developing a certain balance or equanimity, respecting the laws and principles of Ishvara, and then gradually we move to rule out even the universe as reality. The only reality is what? The light of consciousness, in which all of these thoughts, contemplating thoughts provided by the scriptures. So I am the only reality as pure, limitless consciousness. Rule out everything else at the very end. If the body and the creation are transcendent, so now we are getting away from the idea that there is a universe. That's so deep, this passage here. If the body, your own body, your fascination with the body, and the fascination with Mithya, fascination with the world. Oh no, I love the world. Oh, I want to be here forever. Oh, if I die, I want to come back quickly. I think I probably mentioned to you a friend of ours in India having one of those seminars with Ramji, the old days, 21 days in Tiruvannamalai. And there was a passage of the teachings that was saying, like, no, if you get moksha and liberated, you don't come back. And then this woman from Spain was like, oh, no, I want to be back. The world is so beautiful and I love it and I have a good life. I have a lot of punya to enjoy in the future. I want to come back. And then I had to calm her down and say, take it easy. Because if you want to come back, be sure you're going to come back. You understand? Your desire, your attachment to more experience of duality is going to bring you back here. But keep working to produce more punya, because punya is like a saving account. So one day it's expired, it exhausts, and then you may start getting some papa. Moksha, liberation, is not to be found anywhere. It is just a realization that happens in the mind. The mind itself is Paramatma. Moksha is not anything to be got new or fresh, because it's always present as the light of consciousness in which the world emerges and is experienced and known. This is the only reality. The nature of the observer of the universe. Such realization arises with the elimination of all ignorance. Nothing more is required. All you need is to remove ignorance. Because you are already self-realized, you already limitless consciousness, but there are some thoughts, some nagging thoughts that create all this problem. It's just a question of replace one thought with another thought. But why it's so difficult to cancel that other thought? I am the body-mind, and I'm limited and bound by time, and I'm not happy with myself because I note there are some gray hairs growing, in my beard. Felipe, did you found some of that great hair? I'm not happy with this. So I need to have a conversation with Shwara because I was sure that I was going to remain beautiful and young forever. I am the body. Now I'm going to work and find a way to solve this problem of of temporality. So moksha is not to be gained by anything because you're already free, but there is a thought, I am the body, that creates all the problems. Moksha must not be thought to be different from the self. Okay, if it is a thing to be acquired in the world of Nietzsche, the absence of this thing that you have to acquire is possible, appears to be implied, possible, no? And then if something that you need to gain, and then the absence of the self must be implied. But how can you exist without the self? Even once you cannot. And then if you find the self, you believe that you find the self in a beautiful samadhi. And if you find it, and then be sure that you're going to lose it. You understand? Anything that can be found or gained, we're going to lose it. The only thing that we are never going to lose is that which can never be found, attained, or gained, which is our very nature. Huh? If we gain it, because it's something of the world, it's impermanent, and is subject to be lost again. The self is, on the other hand, all-round perfection. So where else can moksha be located? The world is not really that perfection in terms of human experience, because human experience the world through pleasures and pains due to one's likes and dislikes. So you are never going to find perfect happiness in the world as long as you have desires and aversions, likes and dislikes. This is, again, a Karma Yoga kind of concept that is very profound. How, once I get the picture clear in my mind that what makes the world bitter to me are just my likes and dislikes. Otherwise, the world is perfect, or the world is value neutral. It's just Ishvara projects it to us and say, okay, so do what you want with it. You can enjoy it. Yeah? The glory, the grandiosity of this perfectly organized and balanced and structured universe of living creatures and inert beings as well. But then you may suffer. You may suffer if you start, wanting things rather than allow Ishvara to provide you with things. You understand? Now I want my way. Now I want what I want. Blah, 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 blah. And then you are set up to suffer. So Ishvara is giving to us. Our life is all about that. The very key for happiness in life is in this last minute passage that I just spoke, these words. And Ishvara, if you would be a living being watching us, would be like, oh my God, this person here maybe is getting it, I mean, it's very simple to be happy here. You just accept everything, and live in harmony with all other creatures, because you understood that you have no control, because the karmic equation, which involves all living beings, is a very complex equation. Our human intellect cannot understand this equation, the karmic universal equation that impacts every human being. And then I am just happy because I leave it all to Ishvara. So I just don't get excited because I have no control. Where is moksha to be located? Nowhere. There is no moksha, we could even say. because everybody is already liberated and free. If it was so, and in a location, moksha would be like a reflection in a mirror. Yes, there is no bondage and there is no liberation. That is the ultimate truth. But it is a dangerous statement. Most people are going to go up to this statement and say, "Oh yes, I got it. I'm already free." But how are you going to somehow be effective free unless you neutralize this persisting ignorance? I am the body mind and I want what I want when I want, the way I want. And I'm here because I have my rights and they have to be met and so on. And now I'm praying to Ishwara and he better listen to me and so on. So there is no really liberation because we are free. What's happening is certain thought patterns are playing and making so much unnecessary suffering, but yet how to neutralize it? And people listen to the Vedanta teaching, now I got it, and then they somehow, without really being able to neutralize this ignorance, they state, no, now I am free. But the freedom must be demonstrated in one's life as that balance, that equanimity, that level of clarity of mind and so on. It has to be effective. It has to fructify in one's life. And the key point here is again and again how to neutralize this ignorant thought, I am the body. So you need another thought, which is you are limitless consciousness. You are not the mind, the intellect, neither the body. We can say that you are the mind, but the mind is limitless consciousness. Okay, the body, physical, is also resolves itself in limitless consciousness. So how is we gonna make this humble as me thought, a fact, a hard and fast recognition, not subject to doubt again? So there is only one way. It's just getting your sword, Upanishad sword, with all the knowledge and get involved in this battle against this cosmic ignorance that keeps, appearing again as I am the body, I don't care for the Upanishads, I like the music sounds good, I wish it would be, but I am the body. Do you understand, Philip?
Yes.
I mean, this text has been saying that, telling us that there is no other way. We have to knock this ignorance off with this noble, supreme thoughts until those thoughts, they just neutralize the ignorance, and then you are neither bound nor liberated, you are just the self. The popular idea that moksha is release from bondage, meaning destruction of ignorance. Ignorance is itself a form of thought. Yeah, destruction is the absence of this thought. To bring about its absence is only another form of thought. We are playing with the thought here. The thought, I need to destroy this ignorant thought. Aham bothers me. And then the thought that I want to destroy this is by itself another thought. And I want to find the absence of this ignorance, but I'm creating more ignorance because I'm dealing in the realm of thoughts and notions and ideas, deliberating in the realm of mithya, as if I have to gain my freedom, my moksha, but I'm already free. So then on investigation, the whole play of concepts, noble Upanishad, scriptural concepts to knock off the other ignorant concepts, the whole investigation, then on investigation, the whole statement gets involved and becomes meaningless. Yes, it becomes meaningless, for the thought cannot be destroyed and still be a thought. So this is very profound. So you want to destroy a bad thought, but then you need a thought. But the nature of thought is what? It's thought. So you're going to replace one thought by another thought, but every thought has a limitation itself. I am ugly, I am beautiful, I am stupid, I am intelligent. But even if I put another thought on top of the inferior thought, I'm still dealing with the limitation of thought. Therefore, I did not destroy thought. And it's not enough to say the Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the real thing, because then you destroy all thoughts. Because if you live your life in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you better have money to have a caretaker. Just find a way to push some food on you or doing everything for you, because you cannot have a thought. The moment the thought comes again, you're going to, I am the body, and it's very limiting to be the body. The same way with the dream world. It's said to be real and as well unreal in experience and in substance, respectively. So the dream state, we experience it, and then we recognize, once we become the awaker, that the experience was a dream, and the substance was not physical matter, okay? So it was not really there, and the experience did not really take place. Dream 2 is now real. So for what is unreality then? Unreality is impermanency. So the dream comes and goes and changes from moment to moment. The awake state comes and goes and changes from moment to moment. Nothing is permanent. And the awakening state, the physical material universe as well is moving and change. So what is this mithya thing, this unreality? And then Dattatreya answers saying it is impermanency. This again is recognized by the thought of the non-continuity, or the continuous flux of change and things appearing and disappearing. So this is the nature of mithya, and realities that, by definition, they never change and is always ever present. It is truly non-continuous then. The intellect being always continuous, there cannot be a moment of its non-existence, of the non-existence of anything. So then, even at the moment of thinking, the absence of a thing, that thing really, so then, even at the moment of thinking about the absence of ignorance, because this is we are dealing here with the removal of ignorance. Even when we are looking at the thought, we saw in creating the context, the dream state, there are thoughts and things there, but they are not real, they are discontinued, they are impermanent, and so on. Now let's go back to the thought, I am the body, which is a painful thought. And then I say, well, I have this ignorance, and then I need to remove this thought, Even at the moment of thinking, the absence of this ignorant thought, that thing really exists in the mind, and so it is real and not unreal. So I'm making the thought of the body real by fighting it with any statement such as I'm not the body. So the bottom line here, if I'm really understanding it correctly, is that in the realm of thoughts and concepts, we don't find real satisfaction, because the nature of a certain thought, or even the absence of that thought, makes again a thought. All the thoughts are limiting. All the thoughts are uncomfortable unless we understand the ultimate thought, which liberates ones, which is I am free, limitless consciousness. And this thought cannot be just a thought. This thought has to be converted in what we call a paroksha jnana. It's a direct recognition that, oh yes, I am free, limitless consciousness. And then it's no longer thought, because a thought is something that needs to be maintained. When I did college, I studied some things in engineering, and I walked away from that. All those thoughts in terms of maths and calculus and everything is gone. If you do not maintain those thoughts, they go, they fade away. So how about aham brahmasmi? No, we say, the scriptures say, it's once you understand it, once it's a fact to you, once, it's clear, you see, it's the most simple thing, and then I do not need to sustain that thought. All other thoughts need to be sustained. And what is the thought that will sustain the most? Body is me, from early age. So we sustain this thought. Now we need to bring about another thought until that thought no longer requires sustenance. Okay, it becomes a natural, direct knowledge which does not require maintenance. Okay, in the sense like doubt in respect to my true nature identity. This consciousness being always present and continuous experience the world, there cannot be a moment of non-existence of anything. So then, even at the moment of thinking, the absence of thing, that thing really exists in the mind. So all objects are, however, non-existence when not contemplated by the mind. The mind somehow projects apparent reality on the objects, on the thoughts. We need to contemplate and keep holding that thought together. And that's how we feel like we are bound, because our thought pattern develops certain tendencies that are conducive to human psychological suffering. Reality is determined by the being or non-being, which cannot be ascertained by the mind. But reality is determined by the being or non-being, which cannot be ascertained by the mind, because its denial implies the formation of the mental image of the denied thing, and it's absurd to deny one's existence. This is, again, very philosophical. Reality is what? Is consciousness. Is determined by being and non-being, because it's beyond, I am or I am not. So the people believe that reality is the negation of beingness. So reality is not being or emptiness or the void, or nothingness. So as long as there is something there, this is not reality. So reality is determined by being or not being, which cannot be ascertained by the mind. Because it's denials of being or not being implies the formation of a mental image of the denied thing, which is I am or I am not, okay? Be or not be. Do I exist or I do not exist? You understand? So this is, again, traveling in the realm of the mind and philosophy, but reality is something beyond these philosophical contemplations. And furthermore, there is something within that philosophical contemplation that is the only reality, which is something that transcends both extremes, whether be or not be, I am or I am not. Reality is the absence of any and everything, No, none of this is reality. The only reality is what? Is this consciousness in which either affirmation, I am or I am not, implies the formation of more thoughts of the denial of existence. The philosophy that says the reality is non-beingness, no existence, okay? It's void, there is nothingness. The Buddhists, they love this concept. So the nothingness is the only reality. So, okay, but again, the concept or the mental image of nothingness, which is the denial of existence itself, it's again a formation in the mind. A denial of something is not really possible, as we have asserted that in many passages of our text, because the moment that says, yes, now I have come to the ultimate truth, is the reality is not knowing, reality is non-existence, is no being, and so on, is emptiness. But all these denied concepts, okay, are absurd, because it happens within something which consciousness, which is, it must be existent in order to deny I do not exist. So this would take us back to that guy there in England who says, I don't exist, you do not exist. I forgot the name of that folk. Nothing exists. This is the ultimate reality. You remember, have you gone to see him, Mark?
No, I haven't. I'm not sure who you're referring to. Rupert Spira, maybe.
No.
I'm not sure.
No, it's some, James used to joke around this guy. It's an older man. I don't know if he's still alive. Lynn may be able to remember. Doesn't matter, but on those days, 10 years ago, you would pay €100 or pound and go there, and then hundreds of people, and he would just, there are some videos of this guy around still, and he ended up creating a kind of a sampradaya, because his disciple just followed saying the same thing, that the only reality is that nothing exists, which is okay, but not as non-existent. It's more like nothing exists as it seems to exist. You need to resolve all the Namarupas into Ishvara and then into Brahman. But Brahman is not non-existence, it's the fullness of existence without having any superimposition upon itself. So you can never determine that, because you are a conscious being, deny your very existence. And if you deny your very existence, you have to be taken to a madhouse. Everything is. Thus, the existence of consciousness is proved by its manifestation. What it means to say, so the manifestation is enough proof of the purna, or the full, whole, and complete nature of the only reality, which is consciousness. The existence of all these apparent objects shining with apparent existence is proving what? Is proving Satchitananda, the existence and the consciousness of Brahman, the existence of pure consciousness, intelligence. Thus, moksha cannot be exterior to this consciousness. Consciousness cannot be found where on those apparent superimpositions projected by Maheshwara. The whole spiritual world is a joke. Everybody's there looking for reality on these projections of Maya and Ishvara. And it's happening within the only reality, which is consciousness. They are just a mirage, and people know, but here. No, moksha can never be found exteriorly in mithya, or anything that you're going to gain, accomplish, gather, acquire, or even assimilate. Even the idea, oh, moksha is something that you have to take small dose, like a homeopathic medicine, and then you're going to assimilate it. No, moksha is your very nature, because your consciousness is free. So then this body of knowledge needs to be properly assimilated until this notion, aham, body as me, is cancelled, and then you are just yourself. You are just the only self. Moksha is defined as the steady glow of the self in perfection. The question arises whether the self is imperfect at one time and ignorant and perfected at the time. You see, when we start playing with words, we run into contradiction. Moksha here is being defined as a steady glow of the self in its perfection. So he's pointing to what? To a certain mental state of samadhi. In samadhi, the self could be this moksha, liberation is defined as a shine, a glow of consciousness, a self-reflected mental condition that shines with this steady glow of the light of consciousness. It's perfect as can be maybe experienced by a human being. But if you define that moksha, and then you would run into this kind of contradiction, then it means to say that now I'm free because the glow, the reflection of consciousness is perfect. Why? Because my mind is cleared from all ragas and dveshas. And then this is what? This is moksha. And then the commentator says here, but if we take moksha to be this steady glow of consciousness, we run into the contradictions, is whether the self is perfect, sometimes imperfect at other times. So the self is always perfect, but the reflecting medium is subject to change. Sometimes it's more sattvic, and then it's going to feel good. The Jiva-Atma is going to feel good. Sometimes it has a lot of rajas. Jiva-Atma is going to feel anxious and agitated. Okay? Sometimes it's more tamasic, the reflecting medium, and then Jiva-Atma is going to feel a little depressed. So, but is the self subject to perfection and imperfection? The self is perfect and imperfect depending on the state of the mind. It would be ignorance and perfect at other times. So no, the no modification of this consciousness, abstract consciousness, into the objective phenomenon is said to be the state of perfection. So now I say, the no modification of this pure limitless consciousness into the objective phenomenon is said to be the state of perfection of reflected consciousness, because consciousness is always perfect. And again, we are there dealing with two concepts. I want to experience the perfect reflection of consciousness, and then you have to work for controlling your mental state. But no mental state can be steady. It's always changing. And furthermore, a lot of us have to activate the mind to get our day-to-day butter and bread. So take care of the house and many other things. So the no modification is said to be the state of perfection of the Jiva-Atma. So there is no contradiction. Okay, experientially saying, this is a perfect state of a mind which is glowing with consciousness in the absence of mental disturbance. What are the mental disturbances? I want this and I don't want that. I like this, I don't like that. So my mind is now modified and I'm experiencing this beautiful samadhi. Okay, good deal. There is no contradiction. Experientially speaking, there is a perfect reflection of consciousness. But if you're inclined to be a samadhi yogi, but if you need to live your life, you can transcend the need of having a mind in a constant state of samadhi and let the mind move according to your roles and interactions with the field. You understand? But have the mind disciplined and controlled by a certain knowledge in respect to the very nature of the mind that is going to minimize, extremely minimize those excess of ragas and dveshas. So that is the Jnana Yoga, the Upanishad, the Vedantic approach. Okay, so we're going to clear the mind of excess of ragas and dveshas. And then once the mind is more pure, more contemplative, we're going to search and seek for this self-recognition. And then once this self-recognition is established, and then the mind goes very rapidly through a process more and more purification. Why? Because this self-recognition involves the understanding that I am fully satisfied because I am Purna by nature, I am consciousness, there is no limitation consciousness, there is no dwelling consciousness, nothing can affect, nothing can be added or subtracted by my true nature as consciousness. So this knowledge is going to have a default, produce a default state of, which is not the perfection state of samadhi or bliss and access. It's just a mind that's properly resolved in a state that is often referred, I like to refer as Sahaja Samadhi. No? Abstract consciousness contracts at the stimuli to modification and becomes limited. Otherwise, it's infinite and unbroken. Yes. So this is abstract intelligence. It's going to contract at in contact with the object. And then it says that it contracts. It contracts because it becomes the object, as we have seen. Consciousness, the mind becomes the object, and it's going to contract as well with equanimity, not equanimity. How you say the opposite of equanimity? It's going to contract because it's going to get in contact with the sought object, and immediately it's going to say, "Oh, I love it. Oh, I don't like it. Oh, you know, I want those attractions and repulsions." You know, so it's going to contract the mind at every stimuli with the field of object, and then these modifications are going to create a sense of discomfort and limitation. But otherwise, if it's not in contact with the object, with the stimulus coming from the, it is unbroken, you know, abstract consciousness, just a light revealing object. If you mean to suggest that such abstract consciousness is broken up into segments by time, tell me whether the disintegrating influence or within the self or without it. Okay, we're going to stop here. I'm sorry, I went over some of the verse. I haven't had much time to go, but it was good because we could look from different angles. Some of those profound verse. And now I'm going to prepare, read all of these, make my notes for our next class this coming Monday in 3 days, Ishwara willing. Anything from you guys, please?
I'm really glad you went back and recollected those verses. Beautiful manana material. I mean, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Your appreciation is much appreciated. Okie dokie. So we meet again soon. Namaste. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you
Meet you
so
soon
much.
again. Bye-bye. Thank you, Philippa.